You know me, doing my last video, I'm doing my celebrity chart. This was actually super hard because every celebrity that I wanted to do didn't have birth times. So I just started scrolling through astro charts by, so I think I was doing it by sign. I don't know what I was doing, but I was just scrolling through, like looking who had times that were accurate and who would be interesting. And I actually came across Caitlyn Jenner, of all people, and I was like, this would be super interesting. And she had an accurate birth time, um, and I looked at the chart. I was like, oh, the little that I know about her, um, I was like, this could be interesting. And so I decided to listen to her autobiography and did that. And so here we go with the chart. Um, I am not like a celeb uh, follower or anything like that. So like I know who she is, you know, being starting out as Bruce Jenner and then transitioning very publicly, and the Kardashians. And I didn't realize that I had to look up, like, how are they connected? Um, she's actually a stepfather to the Kardashian children and then father to the Kardashians half siblings. So anyway, super interesting, um, especially, you know, with the transgender and the fame and all that went along with it. So let's dive in. So first off, um, her sun and ascendant are conjunct there at Scorpio. And when I saw that, I was like, of course, like, you know, born as a man and feeling trapped and hidden and then needing to emerge. And like, anyway, that was just like, I was like, that seems very Scorpio to me. Just very wrapped up in that gender identity. And it was very interesting though, and I actually learned a lot listening to the biography, was that there's not a huge sexual component. Like, it really is just like for at least for her, it really is just that gender identity, which was just, to me, was very interesting. But having that sun in Scorpio, like, just I just imagine just like, and your ascendant, so being like mysterious and being that, I think I've heard that, like, that Scorpio sin is also supposed to be like very physically attractive. And Bruce Jenner was known very much so for being very physically attractive. And um that watery, deep, very deep and secretive, that secretive need. And it's interesting, from a very early age, he recalls, and I'll probably switch between he and she just because, like, when she's younger, it's like it's a he, and then when it's older, it's a she. So please, hopefully that's not confusing. But you know, feeling the need to be very secretive about his desire to dress in his mom's clothes and sneak into her closet to put clothes on, and then and just that whole, like, that secret, that like, I can't imagine like a deeper secret to keep inside you, feeling like you have this totally different gender inside of you. And so um that, with that Scorpio sun now and ascendant. And so not only is he going to feel that need just as his core, like just these secrets and this depth and this privateness, with his ascendant there too, it's like that's how he views the world, right? That's how people are going to perceive him. And he was very, you know, he did keep to himself. Like, he didn't have a ton of friends, and he really struggled with friendship. And it was just super interesting. So let's move over to his moon in Aquarius. And it's just right there, and it's in the third house. And this is actually squaring the sun. And so like you've already got this Scorpio sun that's very, you know, very internal, very secretive, very deep. And then you've got this moon in Aquarius, which is very unusual and very just different and off that beaten path, right? That inner self. And being in the third house, I was looking up, in the 12 houses book, I'm like, I've got so many books. I'm sure you, but the 12 houses book. And then again, in Stephen Forrest's book, talk with that moon in the third house. That's the house of communication. It's the house of siblings and the early school, and definitely like his relationships with his siblings definitely played a role in shaping him. He had an older sister that was very incredibly smart, you know, really did well in school, and he was dyslexic and really struggled with that. And so that, you know, a lot of his inner self was I think developed from his relationship with his sister. And he had a brother that quite a few years younger than him. I can't remember exactly how many years, but it was a significant amount of years. But when it was after he had won the Olympics, and he was back in his hometown, and a car dealership lent him a Porsche to use while he was in town, and he let his younger brother use it. His brother was 18 at the time, and his brother ended up getting in a really bad car accident, killing him and his passenger. And Bruce carried a lot of guilt about that for a long time, and I'm guessing still does. He's, you know, 65, 70 now. But definitely shaping him, those sibling relationships and the community. I think that for him, this moon is more about the communication, especially in Aquarius, especially being transgender and that gender dysphoria. And that might be the wrong word, please forgive me if it is, but that's what I'm recalling from the book. So the moon in the third house and in Aquarius too is needing to find his true voice, her true voice, needing to feel heard and needing to have faith in her own ability to express herself clearly. And also like the need to tell your story. And it's so funny because finally, I think she was 65 when she wrote her biography, which it came out in 2017, 2018. But that need to tell your story, and in the house of communications. And so even though, and she had a co-writer to help her actually write the book with her dyslexia. That was a big struggle. So, but definitely you could tell that it's her voice and how she speaks, and just needing to tell her story. And with that Scorpio, now we've got this strong squaring to both the ascendant and the sun there with the moon. And it's like that struggle between telling it's like, do I tell my story? Do I keep hidden? Do I, like, you see this throughout her life of just like almost having two lives, and just the struggle that had to be, because she didn't want to disrupt relationships she had, but she also wanted to be true to herself, and her feeling of being a woman. So that's moon, ascendant, and sun. So let's go on to the big three, or not the big three here, in our personal planets. So Mercury is over in the 12th house, and Mercury, like, you know, this is our communications, this is our intelligence, this is our kind of, Mercury just has a lot of movement and energy. And being in the 12th house, which is in Libra, just and it's so close to Neptune. And so let me see if I don't think it's conjunct, but see, Neptune at 15, Mercury. So there it's a 4-degree orb, but close enough that there's going to have that influence. And with Libra, all about balancing and trying to find harmony between paradoxes. Like, hello, like her entire life is a paradox, right? Born as a man, feeling like you're a woman, being really private, but having a very public life after winning the Olympics, and then being a sports celebrity, and then being a reality TV celebrity, and just like all of that. And Neptune just makes things kind of crazy, and with technology. And then they're in the 12th house, like that is a lot of the unseen, but it's also house of enemies. And so like there's been a lot of that in her life. And with the opposition to the North Node, like struggling with that, right? Struggling with dealing with finding your purpose, but having this opposition over here. Now, I think that the gifts here is that there is a gift of communication. And so even though there's not any strong aspects between, that Mercury or Neptune and the 3rd house and the moon, like she has gifts of communication. Jupiter is there, for heaven's sakes. And so there's a story to tell. Like there's stuff that she needs to share, but it's going to be in a different way, right? It's going to be in an unclear way. Like that's going to be some struggle. And so I think also that the Mercury and the Neptune close there could also, I don't know, that could point to the dyslexia as well, I thought. So moving over to Mars, which is in the 10th house, which is that's a very common placement, according to my readings, I think, for athletic ability and to be a public athlete. And Bruce definitely was a public athlete after winning the Olympics, and having that fame. Like his career, like he did a bunch of sports casting and stuff and reporting in different celebrity sports things. And so that makes sense, being in the 10th house, the public figure, and showing like the passion of which that comes with Mercury, that fight, right? And this guy, like he was so dedicated. He was just like, I can't read great, but I am going to kick butt on any sports I do. And anything she would put her mind to, like she was able to do. And I think that was evident in the public side of her life from very young, before she was even in the public eye. Now, it's super interesting there with Pluto playing there in that 10th house. Her career and her life that public image has definitely had a few deaths and rebirths over the years. And so when in the 80s, when she decided to start transitioning to female, that's kind of a death of Bruce and letting this female emerge. She didn't have a name for her female persona yet, but as she really became a hermit in the 80s, and didn't go out much and was not in the public eye, and so started transitioning and taking hormone therapy. She might have had a little bit of surgery, but not very much yet, but started transitioning in hormone therapy, developing breasts, things like that. But then when she met Kris Kardashian, she stopped that. Like her and Kris really fell in love. And so that was kind of a death of that progression. And then when they divorced, I think it was 19 years later, you know, and Caitlyn was emerging by then, right? Like she was really starting to embrace her feminine side, and the death of Bruce. And so but this was all it was all very public, right? All this stuff is happening very publicly. And with that midheaven, and you've got it in Leo, right? It's freaking in the spotlight. So it's got to be heard. It's got to be expressed. It's got to be talked about. It's and that's where everything was happening. Everything was happening for her very publicly. And so, you know, with 10th house, the MC, all that, just so much stuff. Now, aspecting, of course, there's a small, not a strong square, but a light square between the MC and the ascendant, which that's always there. But I'm trying to think. So the trine, it's interesting. The trine, she's got a lot of trines in her chart, and so there's a lot of things that are kind of flowing together. But I think that because of that strong Scorpio, and I think that it really struggles on those trines. Now, let's talk real quick about her North Node. Now, her North Node is in Aries, and repeatedly throughout the book, she describes herself as non-assertive, lacking courage, adverse to confrontation, anything to avoid a fight. And so it was so interesting when she was saying this. I'm looking at her chart. I'm like, your North Node is in Aries. Like, you've in work, in the routine, in life, like you need to figure out. And you see her starting to figure it out, right? You see her starting to figure it out in her 60s about this North Node in Aries. And with that Aries, what's that? And it just, looking just at the quick list in Jan's book of Aries is independence. Like, she really liked she does like the wife, like she likes the female companionship, and really, like, she's like, I choose strong women so that I don't have to make decisions, so that I don't have to do it. And it wasn't it didn't really feel like a sense of laziness. It was just like, I want to be kind of taken care of. Like, I want that. And it's interesting because in the 12 houses book that I'm reading, he equates the fourth house, can equate to the less dominant parent, like the parent that is like less quantity of time in their life. And the 10th house is the more influential parent. So a lot of times the 10th house can be mother relations. And he actually has a pretty good relationship with his mother, which was very interesting. So I don't know, like, if his mom was a very dominant woman in her marriage. His dad had a lot of PTSD from World War II. He was at D-Day and things like that. And so I don't know if that had a bearing, but I thought it was super interesting with that Aries North Node, that, you know, needing to develop independence, self-awareness, trusting one's impulses, courage, constructive self-interest, lots of self-nurturing, which was really interesting. And you do see this, like, he had so much self-loathing and so much just yuckiness, which, with the South Node being in Libra, like, with Libra, and you're trying to balance the paradoxes, right? And so trying to balance this paradox within himself. I'm just looking at, yeah. So just the North Node there in Aries, and being by Lilith, like, embracing that North Node, but doing it in a way that doesn't necessarily bring out the yucky side, but that Lilith is there to help bring us out of, like, it's that healer, right? It's that witch doctor that needs to bring that out. So a few aspects that I felt were important here. Of course, there's such a strong opposition between his 12th and his 6th houses, between, you know, Mercury, Neptune, and his nodes, and Lilith. And I think that you see this opposition in his life. Oh, I forgot to talk about Venus. Venus is a very important one. Oh my gosh, that was the reason I picked this chart. So, okay, sorry, Naomi, you get a little ADD, Nicole. That's okay. My little fiery Sagittarian energy hopefully will be okay with you. Okay, so her Venus is down in Sagittarius in the 2nd house, which when I saw that, I was like, that is super interesting, because 2nd house is our possessions, our resources. It is how we typically make a living, and how we get income, and how we feel about our possessions. And when I saw Venus in the 2nd house, I was just like, of course, Caitlyn Jenner has Venus in Sagittarius. Independence, freedom, of Venus in the 2nd house. And of course, Chiron's there too, right? That wounded healer. And so when I saw that, and so I looked up in Stephen Forrest's book, and it was just even more, it was like, oh my gosh. So needing Venus in the 2nd house, needing to invest in attractiveness. And it's so interesting, because like, even before Caitlyn emerged, Bruce always felt a need to be attractive. Like, he always felt a very big need to be attractive and presentable and look good. And as as Caitlyn emerged, that definitely was very, very important. And then typically, then with Venus in the 2nd house, like meeting romantic people, in situations having to do with money. And so I can't remember how he met his first wife. His second wife, he actually met, I think he met her at Hugh Hefner's, a Hugh Hefner party or something crazy like that. That definitely has to do, like, lots of money. He was looking, I think at that time he was looking for, he was separated from his first wife and looking to kind of further his career as a spokesperson and celebrity, and, you know, endorsement deals. And then Kris Kardashian, which he met, and she was definitely very focused on money. And where did they meet? I can't remember where they met, but she was definitely in the Hollywood scene. I think they got set up by a mutual friend. But just a lot of, I just thought that was super interesting to where you're going to find those love connections. And just her identity, like coming out from, you know, being a man into a woman. And that's that's going to make her money, right? And that's where the income's going to come from. And then with Chiron there in the 2nd house, oh my gosh. So, in the like the wounds, and healing those wounds through making money. And so you see this in his career, like, okay, because you don't get any money for the Olympics, but you get endorsement deals, right? And so he was getting all these endorsement deals and dealing with that, and then dealing when those went away, and when rumors started about, you know, oh, is he transitioning? He's kind of weird, you know. Just things like that. And then just all the roller coaster and all the struggles that he's had with money. And like, even now, Kris Jenner has totally, like, she monopolized the whole Kardashian, Jenner empire. Like, her hand is on the purse strings. Probably should look at her chart too. But Bruce was given an allowance, and Kris handled all the money. And Caitlyn doesn't see any money from the show, any royalties from that. And so, like, that's another one. So you got that probably spurred her to share her story, which is being really true to her moon there in the third house. Um, so this was just such a super interesting chart. Um, oh, so a few things that the houses that I noticed as I was listening to her biography. So we've talked about first house, second house, third house. So fourth house being Aquarius, like it's going to be kind of unusual. Your home life, like her home life was definitely unusual. Started out with had a marriage, and then it ended, and but when they separated, the wife found out she was pregnant, so he didn't have a lot to do with their children. And so that Aquarian and Pisces energy that's there in the fourth and fifth house, like you see that with his home life, with his children, his experience, just that kind of unusual nature, and the kind of creative things that have had to happen to create those relationships. We talked about Aries in the sixth house. So Taurus in the seventh house there with relationships. So he really likes very grounded relationships, like very just like comfort, and just like he wants a woman that's going to take care, like that's going to take charge, and that's going to be driving, so to speak. He's got Gemini in the eighth house, and dealing with other people's money and resources there. I thought it struck me that he knew how to leverage his sports fame to make money, and so using that intelligence of Gemini to leverage that. So his ninth house is Cancer, and it's got Uranus in it, and so this is like your religious beliefs, and he definitely was raised religious, and of course with his different experiences it's struggled, but he definitely like has, or she has, a very a strong belief in God um and stuff, but it's unusual. It definitely is unusual, and she didn't get into a lot of that with the book, but you could definitely tell that path was unusual for her. Now Saturn in the fourth house, or sorry, 11th house, was very interesting because she mentions in the book, I've always struggled with friends. I've always had struggles with feeling like I belong, and feeling like I'm part of the group, that I have friendships and things like that. And so I just thought that was super, Saturn there, it makes sense. I'm trying to think. So and with, I need to find out like where, I don't remember like where political stuff is. But a transgender woman you would think would be very liberal, but she's a Republican. She's very conservative. And so I don't know if that Saturn in Virgo plays a role there. But I thought that was a very interesting contradiction, and might see where that might lie in a chart. Anyway, super interesting chart and super interesting person. Like I actually really enjoyed listening to the autobiography, and gave me some sympathy for those dealing with gender dysphoria and things like that. I don't think that's the right term. It's not, it might not be. Anyway, hopefully you understand what I mean. But anyway, lots of great things in this chart, lots to learn. Again, thank you, Naomi, so much for this amazing course and for all of the knowledge you shared. And it's just, I feel like I'm just starting out, but I'm grateful that I have the vocabulary now to understand and to apply. And it's just like my desk is covered with probably 10 different astrology books. All of them are open to different pages. Just trying to understand and trying to learn. And it's it's so fascinating. So thank you for opening this world to me. Take care and see you online. Bye.